I'm Sarah Thompson, a 38-year-old homemaker. I live with my family of three, my 40-year-old husband Mike and our 12-year-old son Jason, in a quiet suburban neighborhood on the outskirts of Phoenix, Arizona. Our home is a typical two-story American house surrounded by a white picket fence, with a large oak tree in the backyard that our son adores. I lost my parents in a car accident when I was very young. That experience has made me value family bonds above all else. To me, an orphanage-raised child, my current family feels like a gift from heaven. Every day, I pour my heart into housework and child-rearing with a sense of gratitude. My husband Mike works as a sales manager at a local insurance company. He's dedicated to his job and works hard for our family. On weekends, we enjoy family barbecues or playing catch in the nearby park. Seeing Mike smile during these times fills me with happiness. Our son Jason is a bright and energetic boy who attends the local middle school. He loves baseball and shines as a pitcher on the school team. Though he sometimes shows typical preteen attitudes, he's fundamentally a kind-hearted child. As I watch over his growth, I feel the joy and pride of motherhood as he gradually climbs the steps to adulthood. Weekday mornings always start with the same routine. I wake up at 6 a.m. and brew coffee first thing. As I wake up to that aroma, I prepare Mike's lunch and Jason's breakfast. Mike leaves for work at 7, and I see Jason off on the school bus at 7:30. During the day, I take care of housework like cleaning, laundry, and shopping, occasionally enjoying tea with neighborhood friends. I'm particularly close with Eleanor next door, who's like a mother figure to me. I often learn cooking tips and life wisdom from her, which helps ease the loneliness of having lost my parents. Jason comes home around 3 p.m. Hearing his energetic "I'm home" warms my heart. It's my daily routine to listen to his school day stories while he has his snack. Afterwards, Jason does his homework while I start preparing dinner. Dinner time is precious family time for us. We turn off the TV and talk about the day's events and our future dreams. I look forward to hearing about Jason's baseball game achievements or Mike's work successes. We sometimes have minor arguments, but that's just part of our daily life. Before bedtime, I always go to Jason's room to give him a goodnight kiss. Watching him sleep fills me with the desire to protect him and do anything to make him happy. I never imagined that these peaceful days would be shattered by a terrifying event. That day started as an ordinary one. After finishing the morning routine and seeing Jason off to school, I went shopping at the neighborhood supermarket. I was planning a special dinner to celebrate Mike's birthday. Jason came home just after 3 p.m. Usually, I'd hear his cheerful "I'm home," but that day was quiet. I was a bit concerned but thought it might just be typical teenage mood swings and didn't press the issue. During snack time, he ate in silence and quickly retreated to his room. At 5 p.m., I started preparing dinner in the kitchen. I was chopping onions for Mike's favorite pot roast. Outside the window, the beautiful orange sunset created a peaceful atmosphere. Suddenly, I heard the floorboards creak behind me. I turned around to see Jason standing there. but in his hand was a familiar silver object. It was the handgun Mike kept for self-defense. "Jason, what's that?" I asked with a trembling voice. Jason's eyes were vacant, as if his soul had left him. "I'm sorry, Mom. I have to do this." At that moment, I felt like my world had stopped. My own child was pointing a gun at me. This nightmarish scene was unfolding right before my eyes. "Jason, calm down. Put the gun down. Let's talk about this." I tried to appear as calm as possible while slowly approaching Jason. But Jason gripped the gun even tighter. "Don't move, Mom. This is the right thing to do. I have to do this." My mind was in chaos. I desperately tried to think of why Jason would do this and how I could stop him. Then I made a decision. Even if I got shot, I had to protect Jason. I couldn't let him make such a huge mistake that would ruin his life. "Jason, you're not the kind of boy who would do this. I believe in you." I spoke quietly but with strong conviction. Hearing those words, Jason's hand trembled slightly. Seizing that moment, I moved quickly. I lunged at Jason, trying to snatch the gun from his hand. "Mom, stop!" Jason cried out. We struggled on the kitchen floor. I desperately tried to grab the gun, while Jason was equally desperate not to let go. All the while, I kept talking to Jason, refusing to give up. "Jason, please. This is wrong. You're a good boy. You don't need to do this." During the struggle, we bumped into the counter, and the food ingredients and cooking utensils I had prepared scattered across the floor. With a loud crash, glass shards spread all over the floor. At that moment, I heard the front door open. "I'm home," Mike's voice called out. Hearing the commotion of our struggle, Mike rushed into the kitchen. As he took in the scene before him, the color drained from his face. "What on earth?" Mike was speechless. At that instant, Jason's grip loosened, and I managed to wrench the gun away from him. I immediately threw the gun to the floor and hugged Jason tightly. "It's okay, Jason. It's over now," I said, rubbing his back. Jason trembled in my arms and began to cry violently. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." Meanwhile, Mike stood frozen at the kitchen entrance. His face was pale, his eyes filled with fear and guilt. I looked at Mike and said quietly but firmly, "Mike, you need to explain this." At that moment, I realized that this wasn't the end, but rather just the beginning of something. There might be an unimaginable truth hidden behind this incident. And I felt that uncovering that truth would require great courage from me. The glass shards scattered on the kitchen floor glittered in the sunset light. The scene seemed to symbolize the shattering of our family. Still holding Jason, I stared intently at Mike. His pale face and the fear and guilt in his eyes clearly indicated that something was hidden from me. "Mike, talk to me," I said quietly but with determination. "Why would Jason do this?" Mike stumbled over his words. Sarah. I. At that moment, Jason shuddered in my arms and, through his sobs, began to speak. Dad. Dad told me to. He said I had to kill Mom. The moment I heard those words, I felt my heart stop. An unbelievable reality hit me. My beloved husband had tried to make our child kill me. Mike, is this true? My voice was shaking. Mike hung his head and slowly nodded. Sarah, it's not that I don't love you. But I needed your inheritance. At that moment, I felt something break inside me. Before we married, I had inherited my parents' estate. It wasn't an enormous sum, but it was enough for a comfortable life. But to think that would make my husband try to kill me. How did you convince Jason? I asked, my voice trembling. Mike looked up, his eyes vacant, and began to speak. I told Jason that you were actually a bad person. That you were trying to abandon us. And that to stop you, we had to kill you. Gently stroking Jason's head, I whispered, Jason, thank you for believing in me. You're a good boy. Jason replied through his tears, Mom, I'm sorry. I believed what Dad said. But when you spoke to me kindly, I realized that what Dad said was wrong. My heart felt like it was being crushed by pain. To think that my beloved son had been forced into such a painful choice. And to think that my husband was the cause. Mike, why? I asked, my voice a mix of sadness and anger. We were supposed to be happy. Mike slumped his shoulders and answered in a small voice. I made a big mistake at work. I'm in debt. Without your inheritance, we'd lose everything. Hearing those words, I was hit by a complex mix of emotions. Anger, sadness, the pain of betrayal, and a little sympathy. But even so, I couldn't justify his actions. Mike, if you were in trouble, we could have found a way to solve it together. But I can't trust you anymore after you chose this way. I took a deep breath and chose my next words carefully. I'm calling the police. What you did is a crime. Mike nodded without resistance. That night, the police came, and Mike was arrested. Jason and I went to the police station for questioning. As I told them everything, my heart was in turmoil. Disappointment in the husband I had loved, guilt for putting my son in danger, and anxiety about an uncertain future. However, holding Jason's hand tightly, I steeled my resolve. From now on, we would walk a new path together. And above all, I felt that healing Jason's emotional wounds was my top priority. As we left the police station, looking up at the stars shining in the night sky, I made a silent vow. No matter how hard it gets, we'll overcome this. And we'll become stronger, kinder people. Holding Jason's hand tightly, we headed home. Taking one step at a time towards our new life. It won't be an easy journey. But we have each other. And with that, I believe we can overcome anything. Several weeks have passed since that night. Mike was temporarily released on bail but is living separately from us. Traces of our once happy days remain in the house, but they now feel like a distant past. Since the incident, Jason has been having frequent nightmares. When I wake up to his screams in the middle of the night, I rush to his room and gently hold him. "It's okay, Jason. Mom's here," I whisper as I rub his back. During the day, Jason has become quiet and rarely smiles like he used to. He stopped going to baseball practice and began avoiding his friends. When I think about the depth of his emotional wounds, my chest feels like it's being crushed by pain. One day, I invited Jason to sit under the oak tree in our backyard. In the gentle breeze, I quietly began to speak. "Jason, I love you from the bottom of my heart. What happened that day was never your fault." Jason remained silent, but I continued without giving up. "You believed what Dad said because you loved him. That's not wrong. But from now on, let's live honestly with our own hearts." At that moment, tears fell from Jason's eyes. "But Mom, I tried to kill you. I'm a bad kid." I hugged Jason tightly. "No, Jason. You're a good boy. You tried to help someone in trouble because of your kindness. It's just that the method was wrong. From now on, let's find the right way together." From that day on, we began to move forward little by little. We consulted with the school counselor, and Jason started receiving counseling twice a week. Though Jason was resistant at first, he gradually opened up. At home, we increased the time we spent cooking together and watching movies. Especially, the time we spent baking cookies together became a precious healing moment for us. Seeing Jason slowly regain his smile filled my heart with hope. Meanwhile, preparations for Mike's trial were progressing. After consulting with the lawyer, I decided to avoid having Jason take the witness stand. I didn't want to inflict any more emotional trauma on him. On the day of the trial, I mustered up the courage to face Mike. He looked exhausted, with no trace of his former self. Before the judge, I spoke quietly but with strong determination. "I cannot forgive my husband. But I won't hate him either. We have a precious son, Jason. For his sake, I intend to face forward and live on." As a result of the trial, Mike received a suspended sentence. He was prohibited from approaching us and was ordered to undergo counseling and perform community service. As we left the courthouse, Jason asked in a small voice, "Mom, what's going to happen to us now?" I gently put my arm around his shoulder and answered, "We're going to start a new life together. It'll be okay." From that day, our new life began. At first, there were many unfamiliar things that confused us, but supporting each other, we moved forward little by little. Jason gradually returned to baseball and increased his interactions with friends. As his smiles increased, my heart felt lighter. One day, Jason came home from school and excitedly said, "Mom, I want to become a counselor in the future. I want to help people who are struggling." Hearing those words, I couldn't help but tear up. I felt proud of my son who, after overcoming a painful experience, wanted to help others, and I felt that this was the beginning of our new life. "That's a wonderful dream, Jason. Mom will support you with all her heart." We exchanged smiles and shared a warm embrace. At that moment, I was certain. No matter what difficulties we face, we can overcome them. And through this experience, we can become stronger